Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio, and recently I brought you a Miltank deck. And some of you, like me, went, that's kind of fun. And other of you went, it's never going to work. It's not going to work, Wassy. It's a garbage card. It's no good. And I understand why some of you might think that. Miltank is one of these cards that on the face of it does not look like a particularly great card. It takes a little bit of convincing to believe that Miltank is a good card. The good news is the lovely Code64X over on Twitter has gone and shared with us a winning deck list for a Miltank deck that has gone and won a tournament in Japan. So hopefully some of the Miltank skeptics out there might be convinced, and if you're not, that's okay. I can keep trying. Now, this is not exactly like the deck I showed you the other day. The deck I showed you the other day revolved around the Miltank from Lost Thunder, using Mina and double colorless energy to get the energy, and using Alolan Ninetales to search out your Moo Moo Milk. And this is not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. We're just actually having to add in here a little bit of Zoroark. So to remind you quickly what Miltank does, I will of course pop a link to the other Miltank video in the description. Miltank essentially does 60 damage for every Moo Moo Milk that you've got in your hand. 4 Moo Moo Milk in hand, 240. And the video I showed you the other day was explaining how this can get one-hit KOs on Tag Team GXs. 240, incidentally, is enough to KO a Pikachu and Zekrom. And I told you that the challenges for Miltank are to get free energy on and to get the 4 Moo Moo Milk into your hand. Cool. So obviously we're playing for Miltank here. And we're playing a 1-2 line of Alolan Ninetales. I know that might sound a little bit weird, but don't forget we're obviously playing Ditto Prism Star here, so you can get the 2-2 line if you so wish. Alolan Ninetales here, when you evolve up, you get to search your deck for 2 item cards and put them into your hand. And they don't have to be Moo Moo Milk, but let's face it, they're going to be Moo Moo Milk. The other interesting thing is, of course, I've already mentioned Mina, which means that the basic energy we are going to be playing is Fairy. So why not play Alolan Ninetales for the attacks as well? 70 to the active, 30 to the bench. I don't know if it's worth playing for that. But the GX attack, bearing in mind there is no other GX attack in this deck you're going to want to use, instant one-hit KO on an Ultra Beast. Straight away, one-hit KO on an Ultra Beast. You know what? With Buzzwole running around like it is, and Blacephalon running around like it is, this is pretty good. But don't forget, we've now got Buzzwole and Pheromosa, a tag team GX that is an Ultra Beast. That's free prizes. That's pretty great. And then we see a 4-4 Zoroark line. Here's the thing though. Unlike so many Zoroark decks, we don't really want to attack with Zoroark here. What we ideally want is 2 or 3 of these on the bench so that we can massively increase our chances of getting Moo Moo Milk. Because the reality is, as much as we want to just get 4 Moo Moo Milk in our hand and smash for the rest of the game, your opponent's going to play stuff like Marshadow and Judge to make you shuffle your hand into your deck and get rid of those Moo Moo Milk, put them back into your deck. And although you can use Alolan Ninetales is only when you evolve up. That is not going to be good enough for the entire game. How do we fix this? Very simply, ladies and gentlemen, we use Zoroark. And in theory here, we can just keep drawing into our Moo Moo Milk. I mean, you don't always need 4. If you're against something like a Rayquaza or a Tapu Lele, 3 will do very nicely indeed. And that's essentially what we do. We are a Miltank deck using Alolan Ninetales and Zoroark to back us up to try and make sure we got the Moo Moo Milk. Now, against Ultra Beasts, Alolan Ninetales is a good attacker, and Zoroark can still do 120 with a full bench. And if you end up against something like a Bayonet, which is weak, yeah, of course you're going to take advantage of that. But make no mistake about it, this isn't a Zoroark deck that plays a couple of Miltank. This is a Miltank deck that uses Zoroark to get the Moo Moo Milk and also as a backup attacker. Because you won't always have the Moo Moo Milk, and you won't always have free energy on Miltank, so Zoroark's got your back when you don't. But to be 100% clear, Miltank is your preferred attacker here. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, we got Ditto Prism Star, as mentioned. It can evolve into Alolan Ninetales or Zoroark. It's great. And then one Tapu Lele, which we'd rather not use. We need the bench space. But you might need a supporter, so it's in there. In terms of energy, we've got 4 double colourless, and then we've got 6 Fairy. Fairy is good for Alolan Ninetales, but as we move into the trainers here, it's also good for Mina. Mina lets you search your deck for a Fairy energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. Now, this can be used for Alolan Ninetales, it can be used for Zoroark, but we really want it for Miltank here. Miltank, ideally Mina, double colourless energy, and you're attacking. But remember, if you're against an Ultra Beast, you really want Alolan Ninetales to get going in a single turn. Mina, energy for the turn, and you're off. The other thing that's really good about Tapu Lele here, if you really need it, you can search out Mina. That is absolutely an option that you have. Just a way of making sure you've got it when you need it. But there are a bunch of other cards in this deck that we wouldn't usually see. As I explained in my previous Miltank video, Whitney. Well, there's no Cynthia here. You can't play Cynthia because then you're shuffling your Moo Moo Milk back into the deck. You can't play Lily because you want to ideally be having at least 4 Moo Moo Milk in hand, plus a bunch of other cards. Lily's not going to draw you anything. No, we're playing Whitney here. Whitney draws a card, +2 for each Whitney in your discard pile. First Whitney gets 1 card, no. Second gets 3, that's as good as how. Third gets you 5, and the fourth gets you 7. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a whole lot better. But it doesn't stop there. We've got 4 Professor Elm's Lecture. Just really helps you to get out your Ditto Prism Star and your Zorua early game. Also Alolan Vulpix, it gets that as well. But it won't actually get your Miltank or any of that. And then we actually see a copy of Olivia here. When was the last time you saw Olivia in a good deck list? Lets you search your deck for 2 Pokemon GX and put them into your hand. But actually, let's say for argument's sake you've got Ditto Prism Star and Alolan Vulpix down, that Olivia basically turns into search your deck for 4 Moo Moo Milk. I'm down with that, ladies and gentlemen. I am absolutely down with that. And then a couple copies of Guzma for gusting and for switching. Guzma's fairly standard, but it doesn't stop there. We also play Counter Gain here. Counter Gain is a fantastic card in this particular deck. Because you see, it reduces the attack cost of any Pokemon by 1 if you're behind on prizes. If you're not behind on prizes, you've probably got time to get that second energy on Miltank. If you are behind on prizes, great. Now Miltank is this plus a double colourless, or Alolan Ninetales is this plus a Fairy energy. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, this is a great card here. We're only playing 1 because it's not always going to work. You're not always going to be able to use it. Couple of Choice Band to do a little bit of extra damage with your attacks. Copy of Field Blower to get rid of tools and stadiums. Copy of Rescue Stretcher to get your Pokemon back. Ideally, you want your opponent to go through 6 Miltank, but you can only play 4. Actually, I should say 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher. And then because we want to get set up here, 4 copies of Ultra Ball, 4 copies of Nest Ball, and 1 copy of Timer Ball, which is good for getting your evolutions. Bearing in mind, we're also playing 4 Professor Elm's Lecture. Fair to assume you're going to get your Pokemon out quickly in this deck. This isn't some deck that someone knocked up. This is a deck that has gone and won a tournament over in Japan, and I still contend Miltank has a lot of potential and is a viable card. I'm not arguing that Miltank is the best deck in the format, but I am arguing that it is a very good card that we need to start taking seriously. And I know that my previous video didn't convince everyone, and you know what? That's fine. Consider this my second attempt, because ladies and gentlemen, I don't need you all to agree with me. I am absolutely fine with you telling me I'm wrong, as long as you do so nicely in the comment section. Because here's a secret for you all. Disagreement and discussion is how we all get smarter and learn more. Sorry, I'm a teacher by day and that sounded very teachery, but it's true, gosh darn it. So if you want to disagree with me, do so politely, do so in the comment section. Let's figure out if Miltank is actually good or whether I am flogging this cow. Go nuts, but do remember the rule. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action, like Keyforge Wave 2 and Transformers Wave 2. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.